democracy inherently is anti that the concept of individual rights. It's inherently against the individual. So pure democracy, the idea of majority rule, is a way in which both the left and the right get around the concept of rights. And they, and rights lose their meaning, as they have in the United States as a consequence. The right, of course, claims to be more for the founding fathers' concept of individual rights. They claim to stand for what they view as rights, but they never define it. They never explain it. In this whole healthcare debate in the United States, nobody on the right has really emphasized that this is a massive violation of individual rights. There's no real discussion because they have a problem, because where do these rights come from? Well, all they've got is, they have no idea of a basis for where these rights come from, and therefore they always fall back on what the Declaration of Independence unfortunately fell back on, and that is that they come from God. They're just here, mystically. They just arrived. And that's just not a very good argument. Anytime when you say, I know this to be true because I've got a connection to, you guys don't have it either. So, I'll tell you how to live because I have that connection. That's not a good policy in terms of convincing anybody of an idea. It's not a rational explanation. It's not based on reason. Therefore, it's not workable. Now, I ties the concept of rights to our nature as individuals, our necessity to produce for ourselves, our necessity to live our own lives, the necessity of using reason, and the fact that the obstacle to reason, the primary obstacle to reason, really ultimately the only obstacle to reason is force. And force has to be eradicated from human life so that we as individuals can live the best life that we can. That is the tie of rights to the nature of human beings, the nature of us as individuals. So the right and the left get it wrong, and as a consequence, there's almost no discussion today about concepts like rights. There's a complete perversion of what capitalism means. Capitalism is just some government intervention, not too much. Nobody can define what too much is. And of course, as a consequence, it continuously grows. And the discussion is about minutiae over here and minutiae over there, rather than about the principle. There's a real principle. And the principle is individual rights, leaving people alone, letting them pursue their own happiness, their own life, in the way that they view as most rational, as the way that they view fits them. So you don't have to look at the whole healthcare debate. You don't have to get into the whole details from beginning to end. It involves violating individual rights, and therefore it's wrong. And the Republicans, they want to say that, and sometimes they do. And there was this article in the Wall Street Journal that head of the Republican Party, Steele, wrote, where he says, look, we don't believe in government-run healthcare. We're against government-run healthcare. We think this is a really, really bad idea. But Medicaid, I don't know if you guys know, Medicare is government-run healthcare for the elderly, right, in the United States. That's good. By what standard? They can't have a principle there because they have nothing to ground that principle on. So healthcare for the elderly is good because their need is greater, I guess. So it's okay because they really, really, really need it. It's okay to violate other people's rights to give it to them. If you only need it a little bit, it's not okay to violate your rights. That is not a winning argument. So if we're going to fight for capitalism, and when I say capitalism, I don't mean the system that existed in the United States 2 years ago that failed. I mean a system of free markets, of no government intervention in our lives. If we're going to fight for capitalism, then we have to fight for the concept of individual rights. We have to fight for the idea, the proper definition of individual rights. And if we're going to fight for a proper definition of individual rights, then we have to fight for individualism, for the idea that we are sovereigns of our own life. That nobody has a right. That nobody should be able to tell us what we can and cannot do. That we're not sacrificial animals to the state. That we don't live for the sake of a group, for the sake of a country, for the sake of a state. We live for our own sake. And that is the essential concept. The essential point is, who does your life belong to? If it belongs to you, then government needs to get out of the way. If it belongs to the states, then we're on the road to serfdom. That's the fundamental choice that we have to make, and those are the fundamental ideas that we have to fight for.